Method acting is getting weirder and weirder. One of the more controversial styles of performance in the Hollywood industry by a lot of famous actors, and sometimes it goes too far to the point where it's used as an excuse for different people to act out their dark impulses. There are some actors that have been speaking out against method acting and how dangerous it could be, especially when it's used in a way that affects others, not just the self, but others around you. And there are 5, I'm going to name 5 of the worst cases of method acting that will make you rethink this entire style of performance altogether. Now, I always found method acting silly because to each is their own. If some kind of form of acting works for a person's performance and it makes them better, listen, Heath Ledger method acted one of my favorite performances of all time as a Joker in The Dark Knight, and we're going to get to that. But still, if you're an actor, I find it really weird that you feel the need to actually become your character, not for the screen, but in life. Not only through the course of the shoot, but even afterwards. That kind of defeats the purpose of acting. I always feel like the best actors are the ones that can switch on and off. Chameleon mode to normal mode. That's a next level skill. And some of the greatest actors ever still method act. So it's really tough. What is good acting considered? Is method acting at all if you have to become the person in all forms and shapes outside the camera too in life? Or is acting you can switch off the performance whenever you want? It's a tough thing, but sometimes I always question method acting seems a bit, I don't think it's always needed. If you're an actor, I feel like you shouldn't have to go to that as your initial thing, but there are some ways where it can be done well. The safe bets, as I call them. Jon Bernthal, during his scene with Charlie Cox's Punisher in Daredevil Born Again, apparently Jon Bernthal told everyone, okay, stop shooting, I'm gonna go do my thing, and then I'm gonna get into the role. And he had to look in the mirror and do shit to himself, slap himself, put himself in a dark place so he could be in that state, and then act. That's like softcore method acting, okay? Then you have Christian Bale, who, more than acting a certain way all the time, he physically changes his body to the point where his own health is at risk. Now, of course, the performances are great. He's not harming others. Yeah, you could say, oh, but what are the long-term effects of damage that's doing to his body? But he seems to be okay, so this isn't that bad either. I know he had his little tirade on set in Terminator Salvation, but that had nothing to do with the method acting. You can forgive it, okay? It's Christian Bale, for God's sakes. Here are the cases where it goes borderline. Shia LaBeouf cut himself, tore out his own tooth on the set of Fury, self-mutilated to get into character, all right? Now we're getting a bit crazy with the method acting. Daniel Day-Lewis, I think in My Left Foot, off camera, this dude wanted to be in the wheelchair and have everyone treat him still as if he was disabled, feeding him, rolling him around. It got to the point where people on set were like, bro, what the fuck? This is just weird now. It's uncomfortable, it's disrespectful borderline. He's making us treat him this way. It's really inconvenient for all of us. So that's one method where it can start to affect and get at others. You have Austin Butler, who for some odd reason decided, okay, Elvis, I need to put myself in the darkest place possible. So people always criticize Austin for never losing his accent as Elvis. This dude got put in the hospital, in the ER, because of physical problems from the Elvis role and the mental toll this Elvis role took on him. I don't know what the fuck kind of method acting he was doing to get there, but this is crazy for Elvis. Heath Ledger's Joker, probably the most famous case of method acting, maybe destroying a person's mind. Now granted, there are many actors who were on set with Heath that say he was a normal dude. Even though he was method acting, there were still times where he would speak to them normally, be chill with them, have fun. He was still Heath Ledger. He wasn't acting like the Joker all day, going crazy. Michael J. White has said this. Michael J. White has always been annoyed about how people say, oh, Heath Ledger destroyed his own mind, but it's him and Aaron Eckhart have both testified to the fact that Heath knew the line between character and actor, and he was chill on set. Now we're gonna get to the really weird and sinister ones. The ones that make me think, okay, come on now. I know what you're doing. You're a weirdo. The obvious one that everyone thinks of, Jared Leto, when he's now, I believe he's a weirdo in general. This dude started his own cult, if you don't know. For some reason, this guy's still getting cast in big budget roles in blockbusters. I don't know why. This dude's not a box office draw. But he has his own cult. He has a bunch of sexual assault allegations on him that I predicted, by the way, after I made my video on him starting the cult. I told you, all this cult shit that he's doing with a woman on an island, you think there's not going to be any allegations on this man coming soon? And lo and behold, they did. But regardless, I always found this dude to be a weirdo anyways. So this was no surprise to me when rumors of him being a weirdo on the Suicide Squad set were happening. He basically engaged in a lot of weird pranks to make his fellow castmates believe he was crazy as a Joker. Sending them stuff, rats, used condoms, dead hogs, dead pigs. He put weird shit on. I think he took Jai Courtney's phone and put weird shit on it, and Jai Courtney was like shook. Like it gets to the point where some actors decide, okay, cool, I'm method now. This gives me an excuse to cross personal boundaries because I'm in character. It's not me, it's the character. We're starting to get there. And I don't even think Jared Leto comes close to the worst case of method acting, by the way. I believe there are some worse examples. I love Jim Carrey. I'm a big fan of him. But Jim Carrey went a bit crazy on the set of Man on the Moon. Alright, this dude would never stop character, and if anyone dared call him anything but Andy, he would go berserk, rage out on set. He'd go crazy, he'd start causing chaos all over, spreading Swiss cheese, smearing cheese on people. He would do stuff called stinky hugs, where he would make himself as disgusting and stinky as possible and hug people, put cheese in his pockets. He would go berserk on set and cause chaos to the point where people couldn't function. Again, I don't know what's going through the mind of these actors, like Jim Carrey especially. I think Jared Leto's just a fucking creep. But Jim Carrey, I don't know. But this is, in my opinion, this gets to the point where it's inexcusable behavior. You're destroying... There's a lot of other actors who are trying to do their job, and you're stopping them from doing it. And you're ruining everyone's day. Like, you're making the entire work set environment unprofessional and just weird and uncomfortable. Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep and Kramer vs. Kramer. Look at those beautiful smiles. Look at those beautiful faces in this film about a big-ass child custody battle between the two in a divorce. Dustin Hoffman went off on Meryl Streep to get them to be in the dark place where they needed to be for these performances. Dustin Hoffman slapped the shit out of Meryl Streep. This is one of the most popular and controversial forms of method acting that everyone knows about. To the point where, and it's not like they agreed on it beforehand, because I think Meryl Streep has actually called them out on this like years after the fact, but this was at a time where producers, directors, and actors were comfortable with doing what they needed to with women to get the performance. And there's a couple examples of this we're going to touch on, but she got slapped, and not only that, she got emotionally abused by him. I'm pretty sure he brought up past trauma and past relationships that went wrong in her life before like the camera would go on, just to bring her to that dark place, and he would bully her like that. Like, it got to that level. Again, when it gets to the point where it's affecting others around you, other actors, that's when you have to really look at the ethics of the situation. But it gets worse. Y'all. Jamie Dornan. Christian Grey himself. He played a serial killer, I believe, in the show called The Fall. By the way, I'm a huge simp for Gillian Anderson. But regardless, he played a serial killer, and he wanted to feel like a killer. He wanted to actually feel like a killer going into this role, so he could play the role better. When you hear that statement from an actor, especially in this pretentious, Hollywood world we're seeing, red flags start to get raised, okay? Apparently, to research his role as a serial killer, this is part of his research, Dornan admitted to following a woman off a train and stalking her for a few blocks. He described the experience as kind of exciting in a really sort of dirty way. Now, while he didn't do anything to her, and a lot of people were saying, okay, it's not a big deal, he didn't do anything, it's still fucking weird. Still really weird. And had it not been for one interview, no one would have really known about it. You have to ask yourself, what if there was an actor who was slightly more unhinged than Jamie Dornan, which a lot of them are. A lot of them are sexual degenerates, if you didn't know. And they took it a bit farther, to the point where they were playing like Ding Dong Ditch on the girl they were stalking, or maybe breaking into her house and watching them sleep just to get a feeling of what it's like in the mind of that person, or to do some social media shit and stalk them there, or to actually go on a date with them and do weird shit with them on the date. Like, you know this shit's possible. You know this shit could happen. There's a certain line that these people don't care about crossing, as long as they get the experience and the research for the role, the human condition, which we're going to get that fucking stupid ass statement. But now here we're going to get to, in my opinion, the worst cases, where it's director imposed method acting, where the director decides to treat a person or treat people in a very inappropriate manner that gets the performance that they want. The most popular case of this, and this is not one of the ones I'm going to mention, but I'm just referencing it here, Stanley Kubrick. The female lead, I forgot her name, I apologize. The female lead plays the wife of Jack Nicholson, who's losing her mind because he's losing his mind. Stanley Kubrick, and this is well known, he basically destroyed her on set mentally. Berated her, bullied her, verbally abused her, emotionally abused her, to the point where he could get the performance he needed out of her, the traumatized emotional performance, which was great. And it worked, but it raised a lot of alarms and controversies about the ethics of the situation. How far do you go for the sake of art? The worst case of this, the weirdest case of this, is in a recent film last year, Megalopolis. Megalopolis, guys, is Francis Ford Coppola's magnum opus that he's been working on for decades now. He put a lot of his own money. I believe this was entirely self-funded, like a couple $100 million. He sold his entire winery to get this movie made. Francis Ford Coppola made this film. This film's dog shit. It's a pretentious, pseudo-intellectual hogwash film, but it's funny as hell. I had so much fun watching this in theaters with friends. Apparently, he allegedly, to get female actresses in the mood for certain scenes he needed them to be in the mood for, he would approach them, start kissing them. In fact, he put some on his lap to get them in the mood sexually. There were some nightclub scenes, for example, that he really needed to be as authentic as possible. So he wanted all these female actresses to get in the mood. And in this environment, apparently, allegedly, according to some child labor specialists or management and some people who made complaints, he kissed a 13-year-old on a cheek and had inappropriate behavior towards her. Allegedly. And it caused a couple complaints with the higher-ups. Obviously, none of these people ever get punished for anything. There's no real investigations put into any of them, and I'm pretty sure he's getting an AIFI award or something, like a Lifetime Achievement Award from Hollywood. So obviously nothing will be done to this, but like we were bordering into some real nunce shit, because he was kissing her on the cheek, but in the context of it was what was weird, because she didn't expect it. It came off really inappropriate. He was trying to do it to get them all in a sexual mood for the scenes. That was his way of getting them to get into the method acting mode. I'm telling y'all, people in Hollywood use method acting as an excuse to engage and dabble in degeneracy, and it's getting fucking weird. All right? I know, and they all say, it's all underlined in one statement that they always bring up. Oh, but we're studying the human condition, so we have to go to these places. To get the best art form out of this, we need to study the human condition at its fullest capacity. We have to do this. We got to bring ourselves into the darkest corners of the human mind. This is a ridiculous, pretentious, pompous statement and concept that underlines the problem. The problem. One of the major problems, anyways, with Hollywood. It's the same. They use the same statement to defend why there's so much sexual stuff in movies now. Like, there's a lot of sex in films now. I'm noticing this. I made a whole video where I started ranting about this. I believe sex is now being overused in films, and it's being overused under the guise of this statement too, and it needs to stop. The same thing can be applied to method acting, and we know why. Hollywood's no stranger to dabbling in sexual degeneracy. Producers are no strangers to doing weird shit with actors and having scandals off the back of them. So, yeah, I had to make that video because, like, it's getting... People are talking about Jared Leto. I'm telling y'all, Jared Leto, as much of a weirdo and borderline sociopath as that guy is, that's not even the worst case of method acting I've seen. Doing stupid pranks that are inappropriate on set doesn't come close to, like, borderline sexual abuse and physical abuse and emotional abuse. So, yeah, I had to... Sun's in my fucking face. I had to talk about that because it's just getting weird, guys. All right? Maybe you agree, disagree. Let me know what you think in the comments. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on a mission to take over Hollywood. But the army must keep growing. If you want to suggest video topics to me, or talk about your favorite movies or favorite film theories in a community with like-minded individuals, join the Zafy Discord now. Link is in the description and the comment section as well. Join us. This movement is just beginning. We're taking over Hollywood, one coke line at a time.